Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Movies with Ron.
That'd be good. Another weird food, I heard about it a long time ago, was they have garlic festivals somewhere in the United States. And the most surprising food group that they had to offer at the festival was garlic ice cream. And it's thought to be very gross, but everyone who tries it walks away going like, that was actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading some article where they were talking about restaurants, like high-end ones, and apparently they make foie gras ice cream. You guys know what foie gras is?
No.
It's like pate, like goose liver pate, I think, but it's like very, very expensive.
Oh, wow.
Fucking ice cream out of that shit.
What was the thing? Somebody was telling me the story of how grape ice cream cannot be made.
I heard that too.
Yeah, they're grapes. I don't know.
Which is funny because I believe...
It's the same reason you can't have watermelon ice cream.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
Because there's... I don't know.
It's
all water, you know?
Yeah.
It's all...
Okay.
I still don't understand why you couldn't flavor...
The consistency of the fruit.
If you can flavor a juice with concentrate, why couldn't you flavor ice cream with it? Maybe it's because
if
it reacts badly with the milk.
If you squeeze watermelon, you got watermelon juice. Same thing with grapes.
Yeah, but if you like boil it down, you concentrate it, you get the flavor of watermelon.
I think the idea behind the grape ice cream is that you can't actually
freeze them.
Make it. You can't freeze it and make it hold together, or something about it, like it won't pasteurize or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I have heard that before, but I want to bring this up.
Can't freeze watermelon either.
I have, and I haven't seen this movie in like fucking eons, so I could be wrong. But I think I remember in the Goonies when Chunk gets trapped in the freezer with the dead body. But before he sees the dead body, he's like, oh my God, look at all this ice cream. They got Rocky Road, they got grape, and such and such. I'm pretty sure he says grape. And I think I remember that because I remember thinking, what? I never heard of that shit.
Hey guys, welcome to Movies with Ron. I'm Chris, your MC for the time being. This is the podcast where Ron goes to see a movie and then he fills me and Rick in on the whole movie from beginning to end because we like his versions better. Don't we, Rick?
I enjoy them very much so.
That was Rick. He's our sound engineer.
Hello.
And here's Ron.
Hey guys, how's it going?
The man of the hour. Hey, you know what I saw?
No.
That new Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, first time I saw a movie that you did a show of.
All right, cool. What'd you think?
It was fun and stupid and crap. You kind of brushed by that when Thor makes everybody dance. That was like 20 minutes of the fucking movie.
That's what I'm telling you, man.
So
like,
much of that movie.
I didn't want to fucking devote too much time to that shit.
Jesus.
That was ridiculous.
All right, movie news. Theme song, please.
Movie news.
Dario Argento crowdfunded a film.
All right.
Yeah.
Good old Dario. Love that guy.
Yeah, no one else will pay for his movies.
That's okay. We will.
All right, it's called The Sandman. It has nothing to do with the Neil Gaiman comic, but it's called The Sandman. And
That's
The Sandman is played by Iggy Pop, which I'm excited about.
Okay.
I love Iggy. It's about a killer who steals children's eyes with a jagged spoon. That's all that is known about it.
Okay. That'll work.
Yeah. All right. Coming out in the near future is an animated film called Monster Trucks about monsters that are trucks.
Is this like a Pixar thing?
It's like computer-generated something.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's Pixar.
Okay. Like part of the Cars universe or some shit?
No.
All right.
They're just monsters. Cars weren't monsters. So there's probably people in this one.
Okay.
Also, Deepwater Horizon. Largest set piece ever built.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't know how to think about that because, like, people build, like, towns and shit for movies, but I think Deepwater Horizon is more like a giant prop.
Yeah.
Because it's like a standalone thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they built, like, a whole oil rig.
Yeah.
Just to do the movie with.
It was amazing, man.
Yeah.
That movie, visually, fucking stunning.
You were asking last week about the aggro crag.
Yeah.
It's from a show by Nickelodeon called Guts.
All right. I know that at the end of the show, if you completed the aggro crag, like if you won, you got a piece of it as your trophy. It's called a piece of the crag.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a glowing gem thing.
Uh-huh. You can every once in a while find them on eBay.
They had to like climb a mountain or something.
Uh-huh. The aggro crag.
Yeah.
And they were like being pummeled with styrofoam balls and shit. I don't fucking know. Rick, you ever see that?
No, never caught it. I might have been. How old was I?
It might have been before your time, buddy.
Yeah. Aggro crag. Pizza the crag.
Remember your old friend Simon? He was like in love with that show, and he would always say this word. He would say it all the time. He'd go, aggro crag.
Yeah. I hope he's listening. Simon Felock.
Yes.
All right. Here's my recommendation. It's a movie from 2001. What?
It's a movie. It's a movie. We got a movie here. Don't get cheap on me, movie. That was Hammond's mistake.
It's directed by Bill Paxton. It's called Frailty.
Yeah.
Remember Frailty?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you guys listening out there, look up Frailty right now and save it. Put it on your wish list or your watch list or... This is a special fucking movie. You ever seen it, Rick?
I have.
I love this movie.
Uh-huh.
It's like the last of the young Bill Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
It's very low budget, but you kind of can't tell. It's a small story. It's about a dad, a single father, a widower, with two young sons. And this is like back in the 60s. And the dad, Bill Paxton, is an auto mechanic, and he's underneath a truck. And he gets this vision from heaven of an angel. And the angel tells him that he's going to be given a gift to see demons. And if he touches the demons, he can see their sins. And it's his job to destroy the demons.
Right.
And like as soon as this happens, he like goes right home and tells his kids.
Yeah.
It's like the only people he can tell.
And that was Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
And his kids were anybody special?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he's got this two boys, and he's like, we're going to be demon hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the boys, who's the main character,
The older kid.
and this is all told through flashback, where Matthew McConaughey plays the adult version of one of these sons,
Yeah.
and he's the skeptic. He's like, oh, shit, my dad's crazy.
Yeah.
One of the best parts of this movie is the dad's like, the angel said he was going to give me tools
Yeah.
to do this with. And the dad is like driving home from work, and he sees this lone ray of sunshine going into a random barn off in the countryside. And he goes in, and the sunshine is shining through a hole in the roof of the barn onto an axe in a tree stump.
Right in the center of the barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful
Oh,
sequence.
man. And this movie, it challenges you. You don't know what's coming, and there's a twist, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. I want you to see it. But when you're talking about angels and demons, and the thing is, both atheists and God-fearing Christians get angry as fuck from this movie,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it special for
Oh,
me.
yeah. I hear you.
It's like, whether you believe in God or not, life is a challenge. It's a pile of shit that you got to sift through, whoever you are, and that's what this movie kind of reveals. And so go watch Frailty.
Yeah, that was a great movie. You know, Bill Paxton actually made that movie himself.
Oh yeah,
And he had Matthew McConaughey, and then also Powers Booth.
Mm-hmm.
He was in that movie. And an interesting thing is he had both of those actors for only one day on the set. So they had to shoot all their scenes in fucking one day. It's cool, man.
Yeah. Bill Paxton is directing another movie by the same screenwriter of Frailty
Uh-huh.
called The Bottoms, which is based on a Joe Lansdale book.
All right, I already love it.
Yeah.
Tell everybody who Joe Lansdale is.
Joe Lansdale is kind of a horror punk writer from East Texas.
Did he write The Drive-In?
Yeah.
Man, I fucking love that
Yeah,
book.
he's got a series of books called The Drive-In Omnibus. If you've ever seen Bubba Hotep with Bruce Campbell, he wrote the novel, the story version of that. He's kind of like a whacked out Stephen King. Very, very gritty and good writer.
Yeah. Check him out, Joe Lansdale.
All right, Ron, what'd you go see?
I went to see The Accountant. Remember that? Coming from the, me mentioning that in the previews?
Yeah, let me lay some on you. I read.
All right.
All right.
Lay it on me.
John Wick and Good Will Hunting had a baby, and it was The Accountant.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
This movie was better than either of those.
Oh, yeah?
Man, I loved this movie.
It looks good. Yeah.
Dude, it's good.
All right.
Yeah, and I had a feeling about this one. Just from the preview, I knew this was going to be good. Okay? And, I was talking with Heather, and she was like, I went in with no expectations. Now, Ben Affleck, okay? He's always been a good enough actor, right?
Yeah.
When he did that Batman shit, a lot of people slammed him for it and shit, but I liked him as Batman. I am totally okay with him being Batman.
I don't know. I don't think he got slammed. I think he was all anyone liked.
Yeah?
About that movie,
Yeah.
and it was, before it came out, it was the opposite. Everyone was excited except about him, and he ended up being
Okay, I hear you. That makes
the
sense.
only thing people liked.
I just remember that video that went around about the interview with him and the fucking Superman guy.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Sad Batfleck.
Yeah, man, this movie made me fucking love Ben Affleck.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I am so pleased with his choice in this one. He's got another one coming out. Didn't he make a couple of movies?
Yeah, he made The Town, and he made Argo.
Yeah. Now, he made another one.
Okay.
I saw a preview to it tonight. It's called Live by Night. And that's the funny part, is it just says, from the maker of Argo and The Towns.
2 really good movies.
Yeah? I haven't
Yeah.
seen either of them.
He's a good director.
But I've heard they're good. This one looks good, man. It's like an old, fucking old-timey mobster flick. It's got him and Zoe Saldana. Looks good, man.
All right.
Yeah. And then after seeing The Accountant, I'm like, fuck yeah. So for other previews, there was one for Doctor Strange. There's a bunch of good ones. Doctor Strange looks great, as always. Another one called Miss Sloane. You know who Jessica Chastain is? I don't know her.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get married someday.
All right. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another one for Split.
That's it about Miss Sloan?
Okay, Miss Sloane is like a political thriller. She's like the man behind the curtain for political figures or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And she does smear campaigns against other fucking
right.
incumbents or whatever.
All right.
And then she's like under investigation. So I saw a preview to Split. Okay, same old preview, right? But this time I had a theory. And I'll tell you what, man. If my theory is correct, it will make me like M. Night again. Okay.
Okay.
Now, throughout this preview, you see a couple of the different fucking personalities. He's the lady, he's the 9-year-old kid, blah, blah, blah. And they do stupid shit where they're, he's talking to a therapist, and then she's like talking to him. He's got this really nice face, and then it jump cuts to his like serious face.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, ooh, he's got different personalities.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part of the movie. But see, then interspersed throughout the preview, he's talking about, when the beast comes, he did horrible things to people, and he's going to do horrible things to you. Okay? And they show a couple of the kid personalities' drawings of the beast, and it's like a big, giant, fucking wolfy monster. If, when the beast shows up in that movie, that personality, if it is not a fucking werewolf or some sort of monster that he fucking morphs into, I'm going to be pissed.
All right.
That is my theory. A guy with a whole shit ton of split personalities, and one of them is a fucking werewolf. If that is true, I will like M. Night again.
All right.
What do you think about that?
So you're going to go see it for an episode?
Probably.
Okay.
Just to see.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
So, okay, let's move on. I found another, I found another preview. I found it at the movies. Brad Pitt and then the lady from Inception. This is back during World War II, and they're like spies, okay? They're like a husband and wife spies, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen Brad Pitt do this before. But it's in World War II this time. Okay,
shit.
And they actually put them in formal evening wear, and then they send them to a Nazi gala. So we get Brad Pitt in a tuxedo at a big giant Nazi gala. And I was just like, all I could think of was grazie. Fucking Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that, the U.S. government is like, we think your wife is a spy. And if she is, then you're a fucking idiot. And you're going to prove to us that you're a good agent by killing her. And we'll know in 72 hours. So then it's all like, dun dun dun.
What was that other movie? Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Uh-huh.
That was the movie where he fell in love with Angelina Jolie and left Jennifer Aniston.
Uh-huh.
They both played spies. And in this one, they both play spies. And supposedly they had an affair.
Oh.
And that's why him and Angelina are getting divorced.
All right. I get it.
This week on Celebrity Gossip.
And that movie is called Allied. Okay. And they do that shit where they just show the word lie. And then the rest of the title fades in.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So I saw another preview to Passengers.
Mm-hmm.
Looks good. Another Assassin's Creed. As always, looks amazing. Then I got this other preview. It's a Will Smith movie. There's all these cool stars in it. Edward Norton, Helen Mirren, the chick from the pirate movies, Keira Knightley. And he's like this weird guy. I don't know. He might have had a family that died or whatever, but he's like an artiste, and he will sometimes write letters to things like time or death or love. He'll write love a letter, and then he'll fucking put it in the mailbox and send it. It's like a part of a therapy or thing or whatever he's doing. Yeah. And death and time and love come and visit him.
Oh, wow.
And death is played by Helen Mirren. Time is played by some younger actor, I don't know. And then love is Keira Knightley. And it actually looks pretty good, man.
Will Smith plays the guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's called Collateral Beauty.
Ugh.
Weird title.
It's a mouthful of a
title.
title.
It is. But no more than Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Fireball goes down smooth.
Comes up hot.
Ignite the night. On Movies with Ron.
Ignite the night. Man, that's pretty good.
That's their slogan.
Oh, I thought you just made a slogan for them, damn it. So what happened in the theater?
Nothing much. I went and got into the, to buy my drink, I went to the Prestige line, but the regular line had no people in it. But I still went and got in the fucking Prestige line. Fucking stood there.
I demand service.
Yeah, and then so there's like a couple of cashiers that were like waiting for something to do, and I was just standing there like waiting for one of them to notice me and call me over. And then one guy saw me and he just like, I'm ready for you. Come here, sir. And I got over there and he was like, how are you tonight, sir? Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
You think by getting in the line, you got the premier attitude?
I think so.
All right.
Either he was screwing with me or he was just trying to brighten my day.
Yeah.
Anyway, kudos to that guy. He was awesome. Will that be all, sir? All right. So here we go. Without further ado, The Accountant.
All right.
On Movies with Ron. We open up with a scene of chaos. There's shooting going on a city street, okay? And there's this guy. He's like running in the building, and you can hear somebody yell out, I gotta call it in! I gotta call it in! It's like cops, right? So this guy, who you have to assume is a cop, runs down the street. He sees a couple of dead bodies on the sidewalk, and he's running inside, okay? And inside the building, you can hear gunfire, intermittent, okay, upstairs and shit like that. He's trailing somebody who's in there killing everybody. And you can hear people going like, "You're dead, motherfucker!" And then, poof, 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 poof. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then last guy you hear talking is this guy, and he's fucking begging for his life. He's like, "No, man, I didn't touch that old man. I didn't touch him. No, man." Okay, then nothing. And then the guy who is he's creeping. You can tell he's a cop because he's drawn his gun, and he's just like walking down the hallway. And then you see the shadow of him on the wall, and then behind his head, in shadow, you see another handgun being pointed at his head from behind. So then we cut away, and we get the title card of the movie, The Accountant. And then we're at some neuroscience institute in 1989. Okay, and there is a couple there that have brought their son, who is, acting strange, and they don't know what to do about it. He looks about somewhere from 9 to 11 years old. And he's putting together a puzzle on the table. And the guy's, he's like counting his finger. This kid's like counting his fingers and stuff. He's counting puzzle pieces and shit. And you can tell, the kid is autistic. And this is back when no one knew what the hell was going on. Mm-hmm. So the doctor that they're talking to, he's like, yeah, it's called stimming. This is self-stimulation. Some people, they'll count their fingers. Some people will walk backwards, shit like that, and it's a very rare, thing. And the mother is like, yeah, what was the condition that you called it? And then the doctor goes, well, I don't like labels. And in the waiting room are 3 kids. One is the kid who's doing the puzzle. Then there is another autistic girl who's in the corner who's, sitting in a chair and kind of acting a little erratic, kind of crying maybe a little, but she doesn't speak, and she's moving her arms around and stuff. And then there's this other kid who's just sitting in a chair watching everything happen. Okay, and then you hear the doctor saying, like, yeah, you know what, at this clinic, we take a different approach to this type of stuff, What I really want to do is I want to educate your son on how to deal with mood swings and stuff like that. And there's pictures, there's like pictures on the walls of like different style happy faces, like that signify different emotions, for teaching kids how to recognize feelings and shit. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to educate your son. So, would you be willing to let him stay with me for the summer? And the dad is like, nope, not going to happen. If uncomfortable shit and light and stuff like that is bothering him, because like that's what they were saying that was triggering his outbreaks or his outbursts. If that's what makes him freak out, then he needs more of it, because he needs to be taught that the world is a shitty place and it's not going to be forgiving of him. It's not going to slow down for him, and he needs to learn that. So no. And at that point, the kid has the puzzle all put together, and there is one piece missing. And he starts fucking freaking the fuck out. And he's like, oh, no, there's a piece missing. No, I need the piece. And then there's the other kid who's sitting in the chair just watching him, just fucking staring at him. Turns out that's his brother. Okay, and the other kid's freaking out, all right? And then at the very last second, the little girl is just standing in front of him holding the missing piece. And then the kid takes the piece from her, and then he immediately calms down. And then he puts the piece into the puzzle, and then we see the puzzle from the top. And he has put this entire puzzle together completely upside down. All it is just the cardboard backing of the puzzle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we see from underneath the glass table, it's a big picture of Muhammad Ali. So then we cut to modern day, and we have this older couple meeting with their tax man, their accountant, who is Ben Affleck. And he's kind of sitting there, and he's very serious and, very stoic. And they're talking about their problems with their money and shit, and we just don't know if we can handle it this year. They got a farm. So, they're in tax trouble. And then Ben Affleck looks at the lady's really ugly necklace, and she's like, oh, do you like it? And he's like, not particularly. But did you make it? And she's like, yeah, I made it. And he goes, have you ever sold one? And she's like, well, sometimes at church, swap meets or whatever. And he's like, so you have a business? And then he's like, yeah, there's tax deductions you can do with that shit, blah, blah, blah. What about your home? How big's your office? Or wherever you fabricate your necklaces. And she's like, well, I do it all over the house. And he's like, it would help if it was one room in the house. And anyway, he kind of like coaxes them into saying the right stuff to get them out of their money trouble.
Yeah.
And he's got all this super tax knowledge, so you're immediately impressed with it. Then we cut to this young lady named Mary Beth, who is walking into the office of the Director of Financial Crimes at the U.S. Treasury, or the Department of Treasury. Mm-hmm. And the director of that department is J. Jonah Jameson from the old Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I don't know what that guy's name is.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. So we'll call him JJ.
We are farmers.
Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I love that one where he's got the flamethrower, And they're like, where'd you get that? And he's like, I built it.
In a commercial?
He was in that Renee Zellweger movie, New in Town,
Yeah.
and he had to do like a what was that movie? It was in like Milwaukee or oh, you betcha, with the accent,
Yeah.
and he did it. An entirely lovable character.
Oh, yeah.
Like I watched it for him.
I've never seen it. I remember him from that show Oz,
Oh yeah.
where he
Oh,
played the
God.
neo-Nazi that was, he had made a prison bitch out of one of Wayne's friends from Wayne's World.
Oh man.
Okay, so he's sitting there talking to Mary Beth. And he's like, yeah, you're a very impressive tax analyst, So, you got this, you got that. This is all your wonderful accomplishments. How come you never applied to be, an agent? And she's like, well, I like the work and everything's fine. I'm fine where I am. And he's like, yeah, well, you're a fucking liar. And then he turns his computer screen and you see her, like, her mugshots and shit.
Yeah.
And, he's like, yes, did so-and-such time in, such and such juvenile detention, assault with a deadly weapon or something. And, so, it's a federal crime to lie on a federal job application. You didn't disclose any of this. She's like, I thought those records were sealed. And he's like, nothing gets by us. So now she's in tears. And he looks at her and he's like, I got one question for you. And she's like, what? And he's like, do you like puzzles? And then it cuts to Ben outside of his accounting office. And he's saying goodbye to the couple. And he's like, oh, yes, okay, yes, goodbye, yes. And the guy, the farmer guy, is like, oh, I mean it. You're welcome anytime. You come on out to the property. We got fishing. Oh, yeah, you'll love all this catfish. And he's like, I don't fish. He's like, oh, okay. Well, and then Ben Affleck goes, I shoot. And he's like, oh, well, we got plenty of room out there. Do some plinking. So, yeah, come on out anytime you want. And he's like, yes, okay, goodbye. And he walks back in, okay, and he walks past his secretary. And he's like, good morning. And then she says, my daughter is coming into town, and she's coming in for dinner or something, and I think you two would really hit it off. Mm-hmm. And he just looks at her and goes, it's nice to see you, and like walks by her. So you see his social ineptitude there. So then we cut back to JJ and Mary Beth, and he's showing her all these photos of all these big time drug dealers, all these surveillance photos. And you see Ben Affleck in every one of these, but he's never looking at the camera.
No.
You can't actually see his face. And she's like, yeah, I remember all these big arrests. These are big milestones. And he's like, look deeper. What else do you see? Then she notices the guy. And he's like, yeah, he is this super fucking accountant that's cooking, uncooking the books of all these fucking drug cartels and everything, So, because if a drug dealer or a cartel, comes up $30 million short, who the fuck do they go to find out where it went, H&R Block? Can't do that. So there's this guy, okay? And he is working for every one of these motherfuckers. Who the hell survives a clientele like that? I want to know who this asshole is. I'm retiring in 7 months. I want to know who he is before then, or we need to update your photo in the database.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he fucking threatens her. Find him or I'll expose you. And she's like, oh, shit. So then we cut to Ben at home, and he's cooking himself dinner. And dinner is bacon and eggs and pancakes. And it's all perfect looking, he's like cooking with his one pan, and he opens up his drawer to get out his one fork, one spoon, and one knife. It's very solitary. So he eats, and then he goes into his bedroom, okay? Turns all the lights out, turns on this weird flashing light that just blinks. Blink, 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 blink. It's this like slow strobe, okay? And then he turns on the radio, and it's really hardcore heavy metal, just fucking blasting, super fucking loud. And then he sits down, and he pulls his leg up onto the bed, and he takes this big stick, and he just rubs it up and down his shin, like really fucking hard. And like you can tell he's doing this to himself for like some like sort of
Flagellation?
self-inflicted either flagellation or some sort of therapy, that he I don't know, he just needs to feel this.
Yeah.
And then he stares off into space. And while he's doing that, we get a flashback of little Ben, and he's at home and he's freaking out in the house. And he's played by some kid. He's got big big glasses on. He's freaking out. He's throwing all of his mom's Hummel figures everywhere, crashing them everywhere, and he's fucking screaming, rah, 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 rah. And you can hear the mom going, "Oh my God, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it." And then the dad is like, "Wow, come on. We knew what was happening here. Now, come on." And she's like, "No." And then, you only hear that happening, but you just keep seeing little Ben freaking out. And then you see his brother sitting there fucking staring at him, just fucking staring at him. Never says a word. And then the dad runs in and he grabs Ben and he's holding on to him, in that loving embrace that, a father gives when he needs to control his son out of love, Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's like holding him down so he doesn't hurt himself and shit. And he's like, "Come on, say it. And then little Ben recites the poem Solomon Grundy. And that's like his mantra for calming down when he's stressed out. Born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, worse on Friday, died on Saturday, buried on Sunday. This is the end of Solomon Grundy. That's it.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what he says to calm down. And then it cuts back to adult Ben, and an alarm goes off. So he stops doing what he's doing. He turns off the music, and then he gets up, goes over to his dresser, pulls out a prescription bottle, and takes a single pill. And then it cuts to him at the farm of the couple. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the husband is watching out on the farm with binoculars, and he sees Ben laying on the ground with a rifle and scope pointed off into the distance. So then he looks across at what he's aiming at, and he's like, "Man!" And he sees these 3 honeydew melons or whatever posted up on a fence, and he's like, "Man, that is like a mile away." Okay? Any man, he ain't gonna shoot it. He ain't gonna hit that. No way. And then, boom! Boom! And then we see what he's shooting with. It's like a fucking 50 cal rifle and shit. And he's just fucking blowing this shit up from like a fucking mile away. And he's like this amazing shot. Okay? Just the 3 shots, every fucking melon explodes. He draws little happy faces on them. Mm-hmm. So he's like, "Oh, be damned, he did it." And then we see Ben, and he drives up to his storage unit that he has rented, goes inside, and inside is an old camper, okay? And he shuts the storage unit door, and then he gets inside the camper. And in the camper is all of his criminal shit. Like, he's got his fucking armory where he puts his rifle back away. And then he's opening drawers and putting shit in them, and, like, the drawers are full of probably millions of dollars in foreign currency and everything. And he's got, drawers full of gold, Krugerrand, and all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
He's got, one of the lightsaber props from Star Wars that's autographed by George Lucas on his shelf. And then he's got like a Renoir painting. And he goes into the bedroom and he just lays on the bed. And up above the bed on the ceiling is a Pollock painting. And he just stares at it. And as he's staring at it, he gets a flashback from when he was in prison. So he's in prison, right? He's in a prison jumpsuit. He's talking to this old guy who is Jeffrey Tambor. And Jeffrey Tambor is like, "Yeah, it's all about inflection, okay? You have to realize what's happening through inflection." And he's like, you understand that he's teaching him how to, like, read people better.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And he's like, if I said this to you, and he's like all upset and stuff like that. And he's like, what would you say? What would you say? And then Ben just goes, "You're angry." And he's like, "Yeah, good, man. All right, good." So he's teaching him how to, like, get by in the real world, okay? And then they're cellmates. So Ben Affleck is laying on his bed on the top bunk, and then underneath, Jeffrey Tambor goes like, "All right, contacts, go." And then he just starts reciting all these names and locations. And what it is Jeffrey Tambor, you can tell, is like giving him the names of all of these super criminals that he has worked with over his lifetime. Mm-hmm. And telling him who to go and talk to when he's out.
Oh, okay.
So you learn that that's how he got all of these big super criminal contacts. Then we cut back to him in the real world, and he is talking on the phone with his assistant, who always greets him with, "Hello, Dreamboat." And he's like, "Yeah, have you found a buyer for the Renoir painting or the Pollock?" And she's like, there is no buyer for the Renoir yet. Do you want to, I can move the Pollock, though. Do you want to? And he's like, no. You know what? Just drop the price on the Renoir and, just keep going. So what about such and such? And he's talking about business, contacts and shit. And she's like, there's this company called Living Robotics. And, John Lithgow, he's the CEO. Maybe you should go and be, go and get a real client, an actual big client that's not a fucking criminal. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, yeah, I'll check it out. I'll schedule a meeting. Thank you. So then he's in this meeting with the staff of John Lithgow. This lady named Rita, and then this guy named Dewey. And Dewey is like the CFO. He's the guy in charge of all the finances for the company. He's like, yeah, I've been in charge of this for 15 years, and I just don't see why we need you. And he's like, I'll need all of the company's financial records for the last 15 years. And the lady Rita is like, yeah, okay, we'll get that to you. And the guy Dewey is like, fuck you, you don't trust me. I've been his best friend for years. Mm-hmm. I would never steal from him. Fuck you. And she's like, you were recommended to us by, this guy who makes like prosthetic limbs, and you have degrees from such and such, so and so, and such and such. Why would somebody like that need you? And he described you and your abilities as nearly supernatural. Why would he need you? And he just goes, I don't discuss client business. Mm-hmm. He's all like very robotic. So then we cut to Mary Beth, and she is researching all of the aliases that this accountant seems to have gone by. She's looking at all the photos. There's no face. So then she sends an email to some other department, and she's like, I need you to face map all these pictures, I need his face, like ASAP. So then we cut to Ben, and he finally meets John Lithgow, the CEO of Living Robotics. Living Robotics makes high-tech prosthetic limbs, like robot hands and shit. Mm-hmm. So they're talking, and they kind of connect, and John Lithgow's like, yeah, I never had children. This company is my baby. I need you to take care of it. I need you to find out what's going on, and anything you need from me, you just ask. And he's like, yeah, okay. So then we cut to Zurich, okay, and there's this that guy Dewey, and he's he's getting into a car or whatever, and he's flying around. Why is he in Zurich? Maybe something illegal. And he goes and he gets into his car, and then next to him, the passenger door opens up, and Shane from The Walking Dead gets in, otherwise known as the Punisher. And Shane puts a suppressed pistol on the dashboard of the car, and he's like, yeah, now listen, man. You've been doing a lot of shady shit with the other companies that you work for, and you've told lies about these companies, and those companies went under. A lot of American lives are at stake there. You alone have put hundreds of people out of jobs, hardworking people, and I'm gonna fucking kill you for what you're doing if you don't stop. And he's like, fuck you, and he's like, yeah, no, you're gonna die if you don't fucking turn your act around, because you have just like totally driven this other company into the ground. And the guy's like, well, what company? And he's like, yeah, that's not the answer I wanted, motherfucker. And he like punches him and shit. And then he's like, so since you're doing that probably to a lot of different companies, I guess you better clean up your act and stop being a piece of shit. Just to make sure you stop fucking over the right one so you can live. And he's like punching him and like slamming his face into the fucking car steering wheel. And the whole time he's just like chiding him, and then he picks up his gun and he's like, all right, now, I am an avid reader of the Wall Street Journal, and I expect to read that you have started cooperating with what I have just said, or I'm going to pay you another visit, motherfucker. And he's like, yeah, okay. So then he gets out of the car and he leaves him alone. We cut to Ben. The next morning, he's going over to Living Robotics, and he walks into the boardroom to get started. Okay, in the boardroom is this young girl who is she's sitting in a chair with her head laid down on the table of the boardroom. Okay. And he's like, oh God, like a girl. And he sees that she's sleeping, so he like opens the door again and slams it shut to wake her up, and it doesn't. So he's like, oh God. And he walks over to her and he pushes her chair, and then she finally wakes up and she's like, oh yeah, hey. Okay, so my name's Dana, and I work in accounting. I'm the company liaison, and I'm here to help you. So I took all of these records that you asked for the last 15 years, and I itemized them, and I alphabetized them. he's like, oh, that must have taken you all night. And she's like, yeah, it totally did. And she's like, so I'm ready to help you with whatever you need. And he's like, it's fine, I'll find it. And she's like, okay, but I'm really excited. I'm actually the person who found that there might be some money missing. And he's like, yeah, that's great. Okay. I don't need anything else. I'll find it. It'll be fine. And he just like wants her to leave because he's all fucking awkward and shit.
Yeah.
She's played by that chick from that singing movie, Pitch Perfect.
Anna Kendrick.
Okay, yeah. So then she's like, yeah, okay, well, screw you then. There's donuts on the table. And he's like, I don't eat donuts. And she's like, yeah, okay. And she just fucking leaves. Then we cut to a press conference for the Department of Treasury, and their fucking press is asking questions and shit, and the guy's like, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Operations here of Financial Crimes, J. Jonah Jameson. So then he's talking, and he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, we see Mary Beth, and she's trying to figure out who this accountant is, okay? And she sees a video of this guy in a hood, okay? Just wearing a sweatshirt with a hood, and he's walking down the street, and he walks up to this guy and fucking stabs the guy in the neck, okay? And kills him immediately, and then there's another guard that's next to him, comes over to fuck with him, and then he fucking disarms him and shoots him and walks into the building. And then you hear some guy going, I'll call it in. And then he runs into the building. So it is video of the scene we saw in the beginning of the film.
Oh, okay.
They keep showing it over and over like in slow motion of him taking these two guys down, and it is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like a Jack Reacher type awesome shit, okay? So the guy who sent her that video is like, you are an analyst for Treasury? What the fuck have you gotten yourself into? And she's like, I don't know, but I gotta find this shit out. So then we cut to Ben, and he's on the company steps outside, for lunch. So sitting behind him is Dana, and he's sitting there, and he puts his thermos down, and there's, he's got one of those old school steel thermoses. There's a big dent in it. And she's like, what the hell do you have to hit to put a dent like that in a steel thermos? And he's like, oh, it's old. And they're talking about accounting and shit, and he's like, yeah, I enjoy the numbers and all of the awkward talk about accounting. And she's like, yeah, I like it. My dad was an accountant, he was, really dorky. He had a dorky pocket protector and stuff. And then Ben's like, I have a pocket protector. And he opens up his coat, and you see it, and she's like, oh, that's a really nice one. But, that's a really nice one. My dad's was really dorky. And you can see she's like, oh, shit, I fucked up. And she's like, he didn't have very good taste. He was a dogs playing poker kind of guy. And he's like, I like that painting. I enjoy the dogs playing poker because the dogs would never bet. So, it's very incongruous. I like incongruity. And you as the viewer are just like, damn. All right.
Pretty good.
It was pretty good.
There's like meaning behind that painting.
Yeah, man. I was like, man, I got to check that painting out. And then I think I missed it, but he told some like awkward joke to her, and she was just sitting there staring at him, and he goes, oh, that was a joke. And she's like, yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to leave. And then she's walking away, and then he's like, and then he just turns and he blurts out, have a nice day. And she's like, yeah, you too. And it's all fucking awkward and shit. So then we get the segment of of his accounting analysis montage, and it begins with him like taking entire boxes of dry erase markers and dumping them out on the table, and then he just goes to work. And he's going through all the files and shit, and he's writing shit down on the dry erase boards. Okay, he totally fills up all the dry erase boards in the conference room, and then no shit, this fucker fills up all of the windows in the conference room with fucking numbers and shit. It's fucking crazy looking. And then all throughout that, you see him throwing the markers away because he ran them dry.
Oh, wow.
Then we cut to Mary Beth, and she is listening to the tape. She's watching the tape over and over of the guy attacking the people and then walking inside. Now, it turns out that they also have an audio recording of what's happening inside. And like I said, you hear some guy going like, you're dead, motherfucker. Okay, and then you hear that guy begging for his life. I didn't touch that old man. I swear, I didn't touch him. And then, bam, he's dead. And she's like, what the fuck? And she's watching it. She's using her fucking government computer, and she's seeing the sound waves and everything. And then she sees a little anomaly. And she's like, what the fuck is that? So she turns the volume way up, and she can kind of hear something. Okay? So then she like isolates it or whatever, and then puts it in her stereo and turns the volume all the fucking way up. And then you can hear this slight whispering. Born on a Monday, married on a Tuesday, such and such. And it's Solomon Grundy. So if there was any doubt, it's the accountant. So she hears that, and she's like, oh shit, this is a fucking lead. So she sends that to some other analyst, okay? So then we cut to the boardroom, and it's the next day, and Dana walks in, and Ben is like, yeah, hey, check it out. Look at everything. Look at all this shit that I did. He's all happy because he's like, getting shit done. And, he's like showing some emotion for the first time. And she's like, oh, yeah, oh, my God. And over here, and da-da-da-da. And they kind of start connecting. And they're going over all these numbers and shit. And he's like, yeah, so I found that, who is, so-and-so Chilton? She's like, yeah, he's the guy who makes, fucking limbs or whatever, something that, that helps our company. He produces these. And he's like, yeah, no, he doesn't. It's all fake. Look at all these numbers that he's putting in. And he has stumbled upon money laundering within the company of Living Robotics. And he's even like, yeah, see, look at all these numbers. See how they've all got 3 in them? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, when people are making up numbers, they almost always put a 3 in it. And she's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then that old lady that first met him when he showed up for the interview, Rita, she walks in and she's like, yes, Dana, you're needed in whatever department we have you in. And she's like, okay. And so she leaves, but she gives Ben a flirty little smile. And he's like, oh, God. So then she's like, all right, so what did you find? And he's like, $61 million is missing. And she's like, well, who did it? Give me your best guess. And he's like, I don't guess. And she's like, all right, so you'll have a report for me? And he's like, yes, as soon as I'm finished. And she's like, okay, so she leaves. So then we cut to the inside of that guy Dewey's home, the guy that Shane was threatening in the car. Mm-hmm. And that guy, he's like walking up to his fridge or whatever, and he's looking in the fridge at night. It's real late at night. And then behind him, sitting at the counter, is Shane. Mm-hmm. And he's like, sit down, man. We're having lemon meringue pie. And those 2 vials of insulin you have in the fridge. Bring those 2. And the guy's like, oh, fuck. And Shane has a couple of his goons sitting behind him on the couch. And he explains to him, he's like, yeah, so here's what's going to happen, man. I figured I would treat you like an adult, not like the way we talked last time. I'm going to give you the opportunity to overdose on all of that insulin so that it looks like you accidentally did that, instead of me having to shoot you. Because if I shoot you, it's going to make noise. Your wife is going to wake up. She's going to freak out. We're going to have to get all rough with her. Somebody might violate her. And then the guy's like, oh, God. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. I was just fucking around. Nobody's going to violate your wife, all right? I promise you. That would be just inhumane, okay? But I will park a fucking bullet right in her brain, okay? So you can either choose between that or the insulin. And the guy's like, oh, Jesus Christ. He's crying and shit. And then Shane's like, make a decision, sir. And then it cuts to the next morning. Ben is walking into the boardroom to finish his accounting. And he sees that there's some workers in there erasing all of his shit and taking all of the boxes of files away. And he's like, no. And he starts freaking out, okay, like he did when he was a kid. And he's like, no, sir, what are you doing? No, you can't take that. No, I'm not finished. Okay, And he's like, oh, man, he's like almost about to lose it. And then John Lithgow walks in. And he's like, okay, yeah. So my best friend, so-and-so Dewey, the CFO of my company, he's dead. And, here's all the money that I owe you for your contract. And we're finished here. And then he's like, no, I'm not finished. I have to finish. He's freaking out. And he's like, listen, my friend who was diabetic for his whole life overdosed on 2 entire vials of insulin. You're telling me that he doesn't know how much insulin to take? He was obviously murdered, okay, to cover up whatever wrongdoing he was doing with my company. All right, so I am responsible by hiring you and finding out what he's doing. I am responsible for his death, okay? As far as I'm concerned, all of his wrongdoing is forgiven. Take your money, and I hope I never see you again. So then John Lithgow leaves, and he's like, fucking Ben's like, oh, he's all upset. Dana walks in, and she's like, do you think it's true? Do you think that, Dewey, he killed himself because we found his crime, his embezzling? And he's like, I'm not finished. I'm not finished. And then she's like, okay, bye. She just fucking leaves. Bye, Ben Affleck. So then Ben goes home, and he is all fucked up. He cannot fucking stand what has just happened. He wasn't able to finish his work. He parks his car funny, and the garage door comes down, hits the car and everything, and he walks into his room, turns on the flashing light and the fucking heavy metal shit, and he fucking starts rubbing that stick on his leg again. He's being like real fucking rough with it, and he starts hitting his shin and his knee and everything, and fucking starts bleeding and shit, and he's like, and he's all fucked up, and then he fucking breaks that fucking stick right across his own fucking leg. It's fucking crazy. And then he looks over and his alarm goes off. So like he did it for like 10 minutes. It's like what he does every night. And then he fucking gets up and he fucking takes that bottle of pills and he throws it across a fucking room. And it crashes and there's pills everywhere. And then he like gets down on his knees, goes down, picks up one single pill and then takes it. So then the next morning he's driving away from his house and he drives away in his truck. And then we see another car pulls away and it was waiting outside. It was following him. And at that point, we get another flashback to little Ben, and he is being trained in martial arts along with his brother by this, like, super martial arts fucking master, okay? This, like, fucking Asian dude who's just beating the shit out of these two kids, okay? The whole time, Ben's dad is sitting on the steps of the house, like, reading a newspaper, watching it. The two boys are all beaten on the ground, and they're all bloody and shit. And the trainer turns around to the dad and he's like, they have had enough for today. And the dad's like, nope. And he gets up and he's looking at his kids, his two sons, and he's like, nah, man. Aggression correctly aimed can save these boys' lives, okay? Because, he's looking at Ben and he's like, because you're different, all right? And sooner or later, different scares people. You need to be able to, I need to know, what your limits are. My job is to know my son's limits. And then he turns around and he's like, your job is to peel away the fucking layers to show me that. He's like, do your job. Okay. And then the little Ben Affleck stands up, he gets up, and then in the trainer's language, he says, it's okay, keep going. So he's like responding to it.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the farm where that couple is in their home and they have been visited by two fucking hitmen. Okay? And they're in there and they're like, yeah, we're going to fucking kill you if you don't give them up. So here we go. And they're all, the couple's all fucking scared and shit. And the hitmen are like, all right, call him in. Call the bookkeeper in now. And you're like, what the fuck? And the wife goes outside. She looks down the road and you see 3 cantaloupes sitting up there. So, Ben is out there. He's actually on the farm. He's out there getting ready to shoot his cantaloupes again. Uh-huh. And she's like, Ben. And then she can't see him. And the hitman is like, do it again. Say it louder. Come on. And he's holding a gun to her head and he's around the corner. So you can't see him from outside the house. And she's like, Ben. And then that guy's head just fucking explodes. Okay. And then you see Ben out in the grass. He just like stands up with his fucking 50 cal. And the other hitman is in there and he's like, oh shit. And Ben just starts like boom, 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 shooting into the fucking house, trying to kill that motherfucker. He shot the other guy through a fucking wall. Yeah. Okay. So then the other hitman's like, fuck it. We're all leaving together. Pull the truck around the house or I'm killing your wife. Guy pulls the truck around. So then they all get into the truck and they speed away. And Ben Affleck just like turns around, aims the gun, and shoots the truck. Okay, so then you see this big, spout of steam coming out of the fucking engine. And then the truck crashes. Or it slows down or whatever. Ben Affleck gets onto the back of the truck. He's trying to get this fucking, this hitman out of there. He pulls him out. They have a fight in the back of the truck or whatever, and then the truck crashes. So now they're on the ground, and they're both like kind of punch drunk from the crash. Mm-hmm. And they get up, and the hitman like pulls out his big knife. And he's getting ready to fucking kill this nerd. Okay. So then Ben Affleck stands up. Okay. And he's like, all right. And he plants his feet. And then he just like undoes his belt buckle and takes off his belt and holds it up. Like, this is what I'm going to fight you with. And the guy's like, what the hell? And he like comes at him with the knife. Ben Affleck just immediately fucking whips the guy right in the face, just real quick, whoosh, with his fucking belt. And the guy's like, ah! And then they fucking start fighting. And Ben Affleck kicks this guy's ass with his belt. Okay? Fucking makes very quick work of him, and then ends up with the guy on his knees in front of him with his belt wrapped around his neck. And then he just says to him, I am going to list off a list of employers. When I get to your employer, you say the word yes. Now practice it. Say yes. And the guy's like, yes. Okay, so then he just like lists off all these fucking names. And then the guy never says yes. So he's like, who the fuck do you work for? He's like, I don't know. I just have this. And he holds up this little card. And Ben Affleck looks at it. And then the hitman says, kill you both. That's all I know. Okay? That's all I know. And then he looks at then now we see the card, and it's Dana. Okay? It's her ID from Living Robotics. And then then we just see Ben Affleck's face, and he just like kind of like, grunts, and then he just real slowly breaks the guy's neck. Not like super quick, okay? Real fucking slow, because now he's fucking pissed. Breaks that fucker's neck, lets the guy fall down, and then he's walking. And now we see Ben from the point of view of the couple in the truck, and they're just looking out of their fucking windshield, and they just watched that whole thing happen. And they watched their accountant kill that motherfucker with his belt and just break this asshole's neck. And then Ben Affleck just like waves at him and walks away. Like, bye. So now he's driving, and he calls his assistant, and his assistant, as always, is like, hello, Dreamboat. What's going on? And he's like, I'm compromised. I'm fucking compromised. You know, people are trying to kill me. They're trying to kill that girl from, Living Robotics. And she's like, okay, already, so do you just have the one truck? Okay. I am taking the license plate. I'm transferring the tag and title and everything. I have a couple of different aliases for you to choose from. This one or that one. And he's like, that one, of course. So she's like, okay, go ahead and go to the storage, hook up your trailer, and get the hell out of there. Disappear now. And he's like, yeah, I need Dana's home address. And she's like, she's not your problem, man. She's not your problem. You don't need to worry about her. And he's like, yeah, give it to me anyway. So she gives it to him, and then he goes to Dana's house, her apartment, okay? And she's just like coming home from work. She goes into the building. There's this weird guy in the elevator, and he's a hitman, okay? Mm-hmm. He gets in there with her. She gets out of the elevator, and the door almost closes when he stops it with his hand, and he follows her down the hallway. So then we see Ben, obviously not being able to use the elevator. He just starts running up the fucking stairs, going up all these different floors, okay? So then Dana walks into her apartment, and there's these two delivery guys in the hallway, pushing a crate. And then they knock on her door. She opens it up, and then they bust in. And those are the actual hitmen, and the other two guys in the hallway are guards. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's like this whole team coming after her. So Ben sneaks up and fucking takes both of them out, uses their own guns to kill them, does it fucking amazingly. So then in the apartment, Dana is she's fighting with one of the hitmen, because he pushed her down onto the stove, and then she grabbed the fucking rack off of the burner and then hits him in the face with it, At that point, the other delivery guy who's standing there watching that just hears a knock on the door. And he's like, oh, shit. So then he gets up to the door, and he's standing there, and he just cracks it open just a fucking hair, and then boom, gets shot in the face by the gun that was right in front of his face the whole time. Like, Ben Affleck was just waiting for the door to crack open, and the second it cracked open, he just fired. Dana's in the bathroom fighting off this other hitman, and then Ben walks in. He saves her. He's fighting with the guy and shit, and then grabs him by the face and just grabs him by the hair and just slams his face down into her bathroom sink, breaks it off the wall and everything, and the guy's fucking dead. Ben Affleck is a serious motherfucker in this movie, man.
Does it have like montages of him exercising and shit?
No. But he's like obviously fit.
Okay.
Remember, they also made a point for him to say, I don't eat donuts.
Okay, that explains it. There you go. But he eats pancakes.
Yeah, but they were little ones. Then we cut to Shane leaving an airport, and he gets a phone call, and he's like, yeah, what the hell's going on? How hard is it to ventilate an accountant? What's going on here? And then, you don't hear what's happening, but he's stopped, and he's listening to the guy talking on the phone. He's like, yeah? Well, damn. All right. Okay, you know what? I'll handle him myself. So then we cut to Ben and Dana at the storage unit. And Dana's like, we should call the police. Okay, that's what normal tax-paying citizens do. Okay, and, we'll be fine. And he's like, no. You can't call the police. You can't hide. There is no hiding from somebody who can afford $6 million, who can afford to lose $6 million. And she's like, what do you mean lose it? And he's like, the money was being put back into the company's account slowly. Mm-hmm. That's like what he was finding out when they shut down his investigation.
Okay.
So she's like, what? So then he's like, I'll be right back. And he walks inside of the trailer. And then she's sitting there. She gets bored and she walks in. And in the trailer, she finds all of his gold, all of his money, all of his guns, sees the Pollock painting and shit. And she's like, what the fuck are you, dude? What the hell? What the fuck have I gotten into? Like, who the hell are you? And he's like, I'm an accountant. Then we cut to Mary Beth. She's talking to the language expert that she sent the sound clip to. And he's like, yeah, it's a poem. It's Solomon Grundy. Okay? And, here's the thing I wanted to ask you. Is the guy who's saying this, is he a victim of trauma? And she's like, no, why? And he's like, well, people who do this kind of thing, and when he repeats the poem, he does it in the same fucking tone the whole time. Like, he doesn't change it. And, that's stereotypical of people who have gone through trauma or, like, who are autistic, And she's like, autism? Tell me more. What does a person with autism look like? And he's like, oh, you can't see autism. Not like that. And she's looking at all these mugshots who all kind of look like Ben Affleck, but you never actually see his face. She's looking at all the different aliases that he was using. And one of them is Lewis Carroll. He wrote Alice in Wonderland. Mm-hmm. She looks up another, which was Carl Gauss, and it turns out he's like the king of mathematicians from fucking eons past. And she finds out that all these aliases that he's using are famous mathematicians. And she's reading about these mathematicians, and she runs across Asperger's syndrome. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, so what's the, what's a telltale sign of Asperger's syndrome? One is no eye contact. So then she's looking at photographs of Lewis Carroll, and all these photographs of him, he will not look at the camera. And she's like, no eye contact, okay. Because she's like starting to piece that together with the photos that she saw. And then it cuts to Ben and Dana, and they are in this super motherfucking fancy hotel, okay, for the night. And they're walking in, and she's like, wow, this hotel is, wow, I just don't know what, I cannot afford this. And he's like, yeah, it's okay, it's my treat. So then they're in the hotel room, or the suite, and she's talking to him. She's like, yeah, all those paintings you had in your trailer, those are, was that a real Pollock painting? And he's like, yeah, in a Renoir. And she's like, yeah, so did you buy those at auction? And he's like, no, they were a form of payment. And she's like, Jesus. She's like, thank you, by the way, and it's all awkward. And she's like, for earlier in my apartment, for saving my life. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. She's like, can we just sit down for a second? Talk. And he like sits down next to her, and it's all like, oh, I'm sitting next to a girl. And she's like, so how do you know how to? And he just goes, yeah, my father, he was in the army, okay, and we moved like 37 times while I was a kid, and he was in the psychological operations. So he was able to arrange for me to train with several experts on how to kill with impunity. And then he discloses to her that he has a form of high functioning autism. And he's like, yeah, that means I have a hard time, abandoning tasks. That's why I wanted to complete the thing. I really have a very big problem socializing with people and being in any type of social situation. And then he looks at her and he's like, but I want to. I really want to. And she's like looking at him. She's like, yeah. And she feels a kindred spirit with him. And she discloses her own story. And she's like, yeah, when I was 17 in high school, I really wanted this prom dress, but it was like $250, you know, or I don't know, whatever. And she's like, so what I did was I went and I took my school math club. And he's like, what's a math club? Because he's like a super fucking mathematician.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you know, it's school, you know, where everybody does math and shit. And he's like, oh, tell me more. And she's like, yeah, I took everybody and I turned them into card counters. And we were going to fucking cheat this casino and just to win me enough money to buy my prom dress. Everybody wanted money, but that's what I was after. So in this casino in Atlantic City or whatever, I took in everything that I had, which was $180, and I bet all of it. And then he's like, "Why was this dress so important to you?" And she's like, "You know, I just wanted to walk into that gym, and I just wanted everyone to look at me and say, 'Wow.' You know, I was just trying to connect with people." And he's like, I understand that." And she's like, yeah, so I lost all of my money except for $20. The card counting did not work. And so then I took that 20, and on my way out of the casino, I put it into a fucking nickel slot machine, and I won $2,000. Huh. And I was on my way out. So, you know, and this dress, this was an amazing dress, and it was designed by Vera Wang, and I was going to be able to wear it to all these different functions, you know, and he was like, so it was a good investment. And she's like, yeah, totally. So I bought the dress and I spent the remainder on a limo and everything, and I wore it that one time only. And he's like, ooh. So she's like, so Ben, for real, why are we here? Like, what's going on here, pal? Why are we here in this hotel? And he's like, I thought they had good water pressure. And she's like, they have good water pressure over at the Holiday Inn, you know, in fucking Chicago or whatever. He's like, yeah, well, you know, they have really, they have nice, this hotel has nicer towels. You know, I don't like rough towels on my skin. I don't like that. And she's like, yeah, towels. And then he just goes, also, I wanted you to like it. And she's like, oh, okay. So then she actually, she leans in to kiss him. And he backs out of it. And then he's like, oh, the such and such department of the fucking company. And he, like, at that moment she was about to kiss him, he, like, figures out who was taking the money. And he starts talking about it. And he's like, yeah, you know, he figures out that lady Rita is the one who was putting the money back into the account. And she was doing it to raise the value of the stock of the company because it was about to go public. So that now they could make all sorts of money by selling that stock. And she's like, yeah, but here's the thing. Why would they hire you if she knew that, you know, you were going to get caught or whatever? Like, why would she do that? And he goes, I'll have to ask her. Because at that moment, you almost forgot that he was like a fucking badass killer. So he's like, it's time to pay Rita a visit. So then on his way to this lady's house, he calls his assistant. She's like, hello, Dreamboat. You know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why you're doing this. You need to disappear right now. It just doesn't fucking matter. You can fucking leave that girl where she is. Okay? Go and hook up your trailer and disappear. And he's like, no, I gotta do this. So then he goes to Rita's house and he parks outside and he gets out of his car and he's walking down the street and he sees this other guy walking down the street on the other side. And it's Shane. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he sees Shane, but Shane doesn't see him. He's walking behind him and across the street. And they're just walking real slow. And Shane's walking, and it shows him, you know, from in front. You can see Ben, like, way back behind him. And then Shane just stops. And then Ben stops. Okay? And all Shane had to do was turn around and to see him, but he doesn't turn around. Instead, he just, like, casually, out from his jacket, pulls out his gun, screws on the fucking suppressor, and you're walking. He keeps walking, so then Ben's walking too, and then all of a sudden Shane just turns around and fires twice. Boom, boom! Right into the windshield of the car that is directly in front of Ben, who just in the nick of time ducked behind the car. So he just puts two at him, you know, like if the car hadn't have been there, he would have fucking killed him. And it was just that quick. He just turns around, boom, boom. Okay. And then he doesn't even go over to investigate. He just turns around and walks back up into the house to go do what he was going to do. So then Ben, you know, he's looking out. He's looking for Shane. Doesn't see him. The guy's already disappeared. So then he goes ahead and walks up into the house. In the house, he finds Rita laying in her chair with a bullet in her head. So, if she was the one taking all the money and then putting it back, why is she dead? So it goes even deeper, right? And then he looks at the photo on the desk, and there is a photo of her at a graduation or something like that, and next to her in the photo is John Lithgow.
Okay.
So then he's like, oh, all right. At that point, we cut to Mary Beth, okay, at the Department of Treasury, and she finally finds Ben's identity. And she's like, yeah, he's his fucking accountant, and he runs this accounting firm called ZZZ Accounting, which is like, it's got to be the worst Yellow Pages listing you could ever have, right? Mm-hmm. You know, obviously he does not want to be found. It's just a cover. And she looks up all the businesses that are next to it, and, you know, they're like a laundromat and fucking, you know, a nail salon and a Chinese restaurant or whatever. She's like, oh, it's all cash businesses. Okay. And look at all the money that they claimed for the year. And it's like thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's obvious that he's using those businesses that are cash businesses to launder his money. But he's laundering so much money that there's no way that could even happen. Uh-huh. So she's like, he's taunting us. You know, he like doesn't give a shit. So she goes and she tells J. Jonah Jameson. And she's like, yeah, I found him, man. I found him. You know, it's cool. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And then he goes, pack a bag. We're going to Chicago. And then it cuts to Ben, and he's watching Dana sleep. And while he's watching her sleep, he gets a flashback of his dad in the car with him and his brother. And in the car, his dad's giving him a speech, you know, you're fucking different. Sooner or later, different scares people. You know, all these guys, all these kids outside here, you know, all these punks and thugs, chances are that they're all right-handed, and you can just take them out real easy with the left or whatever. So you know what? You need to be ready. So are you going to be a victim or not? Make a decision. And the kids are just like, oh, sitting in the back all kind of scared. And then you see these fucking thugs outside, and they're like looking in the car like, come on, motherfucker, come on. So then little Ben, he just, all right, fuck it. Fucking gets out of the car and walks up to him and just runs up to him and just starts beating the shit out of him. Okay? He's just like this little 10-year-old kid fucking beating the hell out of these like big teenage thugs and fucking taking them down. And one of the guys like runs away because of how serious everybody's getting their ass kicked. And at that point, the dad just says, go. And then the other brother jumps out of the car and runs after that fucker. So he's like training him, you know. And it was like their trial by fire. At that point, we cut back to Ben, and he hears in his head again his father saying, you're different, and sooner or later, different scares people. So then he writes a goodbye note to Dana, and he's gonna leave her abandoned. And the note says, Dana, you deserve wow. And then signed his initial. So then we get JJ and Mary Beth, and they are raiding Ben's house where he was doing all the heavy metal shit. You know, where he was sleeping and eating his eggs. And the house is totally empty. And he's got this awesome fucking security system for his backyard, all of these like infrared cameras. And they're like, wow, you know, yeah, he could totally cover his backyard, but anybody can just pull up front. How does he cover that? And then they open up a closet and pull out on a track in the ceiling, okay, a fucking ceiling-mounted minigun. It was beautiful. Then we cut to Shane, okay? And Shane, in addition to just being an assassin, he runs a whole fucking team of assassins. A giant army team of assassins. And they are at John Lithgow's house, and they're securing it. They're locking it down, getting ready for this bastard accountant that's coming after him. And John Lithgow's like, is this really necessary? Shouldn't you be at his house? Not mine? And then Shane's like, yeah, you don't know this motherfucker. Yeah, it turns out he's killing all these motherfuckers, and he's a fucking badass. He's not a goddamn accountant, you know? You wanted this, so here we go, bitch. And John Lithgow's like, okay. Then we cut to back to Mary Beth and JJ, and they're sitting in Ben Affleck's house. And he's like, so, why don't you tell me your story? You know, how'd you end up in jail like you did? And she's like, yeah, you know, I ended up taking a handful of coke and shoving it up a drug dealer's nose and then beating him to death with it, or not to death, but beating him silly with his own gun or whatever. And the cocaine, it was the same shit that he's been selling my sister, which is half borax. So it fucked her up. But she's okay now, she does this for a living, and she's got kids, and she's married. She's doing good. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. That's a rough life you had. And she's like, yeah, begging your pardon, JJ, but what the hell do you know about rough? And then JJ tells her his backstory. And it turns out that JJ was the guy who responded to the fucking scene at the beginning of the movie, and he's the guy who was creeping up the stairs, going to investigate this asshole upstairs who was killing everybody.
Okay.
He's the guy that was like, I gotta call it in. Running past all these bodies, creeping up the stairs, and it was his head that the gun was pointed at from behind. Okay, and he's like, yeah, I was on a stakeout, and I was watching this drug dealer. I was watching him for 3 months, and this guy, he just came in and just killed everybody, and he was there for revenge. He didn't give a shit. He wasn't there to take anything from him. He just wanted everyone dead. 9 dead, okay, and I was 10. All right, and that's when you see that he's got the gun pointed to the back of his head, and then we see behind him, and it's Ben Affleck. And he's like, what's your name? And JJ's like, my name is J. Jonah Jameson. And he's like, yeah, what's your job? He's like, I'm an agent for the Department of Treasury, Financial Crimes Unit, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, are you a good agent? And then JJ's like, starting to realize that he's about to die. And he just goes, no, I wasn't, man. I am not a good agent. And he's like, yeah, okay. Is that all? Is that all there is to you? And JJ's like, no, man, I got kids. I got 2 kids. I'm a dad. And he's like, oh, yeah. Your kids, are they grown? He's like, yeah, they're all grown up now. So I guess you're about to kill me. And then Ben goes, were you a good dad? And he's like, you know what? Yeah, I was, I was a shitty agent, but that I got right. I was a damn good dad. And then Ben Affleck just like slinks away and spared him because of that. So then during that flashback, we get a double flashback. Flashback within a flashback of JJ sitting in prison, listening to Jeffrey Tambor sing like a canary about all those fucking drug dealers and cartels that he worked with. So he was trying, he had agreed to testify against all of them. And Jeffrey Tambor, or JJ, was like, yeah, he would still be alive today if I had only listened to him. But instead, I just kind of chalked it up to whatever, and they ended up processing him and then releasing him. And that mobster, Little Tony, he had him within 1 hour of his release, and they were torturing him. They were beating the shit out of him. They showed Jeffrey Tambor getting all fucked up. And then, that guy, Little Tony, like pulls out a blowtorch. And he's like, yeah, because he was going to testify. They tortured him and they killed him. So when he was released, he lost the protection that he was promised when he testified. So after he died, that's why I was staking out Little Tony's hideout, because I was just looking for some evidence for Francis's killer, or Jeffrey Tambor. So, after that, my life was kind of shit. I was just a shitty agent, and I was going home one day, and then I got a phone call at my desk, and it shows him, and he's leaving, and his phone rings, and he's like, hello? And then it's like, is this J. Jonah Jameson? And it is Ben Affleck's assistant calling.
Yeah.
Is this J. Jonah Jameson? And she gives him tips on how to bust all of these cartels. She's like, there's a shipment of Chinese immigrants being, coming in through the docks tonight. Go and get them. And so because he was fed all of this free information from this anonymous source, he then rose to director of the department.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, my whole job is, it's all just smoke and mirrors. Yeah. I was not a good cop. I wasn't a good agent. And here I am, the director.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then he starts talking about Ben Affleck and how the prison that they were in was actually a military prison. And it was Fort Leavenworth. And as soon as Ben Affleck heard, after his friend, Jeffrey Tambor, got released, as soon as he heard from a guard that Jeffrey Tambor was dead, he went and escaped. And he escaped by beating nearly to death the guard that told him about it with a steel thermos. And that's the same thermos that he like continued to use for his coffee every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And she's like, okay, well, why was he in prison to begin with?
Okay,
why was he in fucking this military prison? And he's like, those records are all sealed. And like you as the viewer are like, what? What the fuck? And he's like, yeah, but here's what I do know is he was picked up, or he was spotted, we believe, at this funeral. And then it shows the funeral happening, and everybody's crying, and there's a funeral, and it's for this woman. And into the funeral walks the dad, and then grown up Ben Affleck, and they're both in military uniforms. And they're like, nobody knew why they were there, and their names in the file are just listed as Soldier 1 and Soldier 2. Okay? And they walk in, and then there's the man, who is obviously the husband of the dead woman, with his 2 sons standing there. And he's like, he recognized them right away. And you see him, and he looks at the Ben Affleck's dad, and he's like, oh, shit. And he like pulls his sons to him and everything. And then Ben Affleck's dad is just standing there while Ben Affleck walks up to the woman in the casket. And now you realize that it's his mother, who had left his whole family behind because of Ben's autism. Went off and started a new life. And then she died, and Ben wanted to go see her one last time. So at that point, people, employees for the funeral parlor, they're like, excuse me, I'm sorry, this is for family only. And Ben Affleck's like, fuck you, man, I'm family. And but he didn't say that. He was just like, "Arr!" And they start trying to pull them out of there. And then Ben just goes nuts and starts punching these fuckers. And he gets into this big squabble with these guys. And there was a cop at the funeral. And once he saw that, he pulled his gun. And then all I know is that soldier number 1 just jumped in front of the gun. So his dad jumped in front of Ben and got shot, to save his son's life. So he's laying there dead, and Ben Affleck is on the ground being like held down by like 3 or 4 different dudes. And he just looks at his dead father across the floor from him.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's got this like hurt but blank look on his face, like, shit.
Yeah.
I did this. So then JJ's, he's talking to Mary Beth, and he's like, so here's the thing. I was too old for this job 10 years ago, okay? But this is what I've been doing this whole time, is I've been here to take those calls, okay? To take these big bastards down whenever they cross the accountant, whenever they violate his moral code.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I know exactly why he went in to go fucking take care of that little Tony, because that fucker killed his best friend. And here's the deal. When I'm gone, somebody needs to be here to answer the phone.
Yeah. This is cool. I like it.
Oh,
All
it's
right.
cool, man. This was such a good movie. And he's like, and I need that to be you, Mary Beth. And she's like, fuck you. You've known who he was this whole time? And he's like, yeah. I just needed to make sure that you were cool.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, man, he's a fucking killer. Fuck you. I'm not doing this. And he's like, well, that's too bad. And then the phone rings. And he looks at the phone, and he looks at her, and he's like, uh-huh. And he's just sitting on the couch with his feet up on the coffee table. And then Mary Beth walks over to the phone, and she's like, hello? And then you hear the assistant go, yes, Mary Beth so-and-so, please tell Elliot Ness to get his feet off of the furniture. You're not in a barn, okay? Now, you guys need to get over to Living Robotics. Write that down. And so then it cuts to John Lithgow's house. And Ben has shown up. And that place is fucking swarming with Shane's, thugs.
Yeah.
Who are all trained fucking private security guys. And you just hear boom out in the yard. Just one shot. And it's like, what the fuck? And you see that Ben has taken one of them out, and he's got him tied up. And he's just sitting outside with his rifle pointed at the house. And he's like, all right, tell me everything you know about the house. Exit points, entryways, layout, everything. And the guy's just like fucking staring at him. And then Ben just starts fucking opening fire into the living room. Boom, 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 boom. And like everybody's fucking scrambling and shit. And it's fucking nuts. And, yep, he's killing a bunch of them. So Shane grabs John Lithgow and he's like, "Get down, motherfucker!" And like everybody's down. The whole place is just getting shot up and shit. And then it subsides, and Shane stands up and he's like, "All right, all of you, go outside and get that asshole." So then they all do that. And they all move out in formation and shit. And Shane's like, "Yeah, you over there at the cameras. I'll man the cameras. You go out there and join your friends." So they all outside, and they throw some smoke grenades and shit, and they're looking for him. And then he uses the smoke that they threw as cover, and he just starts fucking taking all these assholes out with an assault rifle. He's just taking them all down, okay? And it's really good, fucking awesome John Wick shooting type sequence. And then he kills all of them. So then he's like, now he's climbing up on the roof, and you can hear other guys that are still up in the house. They're like, he's on the roof, he's coming in. And then you hear Shane go like, "Yeah, all right, goddammit. I don't want to hear anybody, I don't even want to hear any gunshots. I just want to hear target acquired. Now get him, assholes." So then he comes in, and he's fucking fighting with all of them, taking a whole bunch of them out. And then Shane is watching this all on video. He's like, "Man, this guy's fucking amazing." Then Ben fights this exceptionally tough soldier.
Okay.
It's like the bald airplane mechanic from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
The one that he's gonna have just maybe a little bit of trouble with.
Okay.
The guy he's like, "I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast." You eat pieces of shit for breakfast? So he's fighting them, and like they get locked in in a grapple, and they fall over the fucking railing, and they hit the ground and shit, and then they get up, and it's like, "Oh, you should use your belt again." Anyway, he picks up a flash grenade from one of the dead soldiers, okay, and then he just runs up to this big guy and grabs onto him and pulls him tightly to him. So they're like locked in a bear hug, and then he pulls the pin on the grenade and then grabs the guy's face and pushes it down onto the grenade, like holds the guy's face right down into his own chest. And then you hear the grenade going, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, and then it just goes boom. And like you hardly see it at all because he had the guy pushed so hard to him. The only thing that caught the impact, of the explosion of the grenade was the dude's face. Now it wasn't like a normal grenade, okay? It was just like a flash grenade. But that going off, like stuck in your fucking mouth, I guess, killed him. So that's how he took him out. Anyway, at some point during the fray, Ben either got shot in his leg or he got, cut or whatever. So at that point, he does pull off his belt and he tourniquets his leg. And while he's doing that, he starts saying the Solomon Grundy poem. And then Shane hears that over the video and he's like, "What the fuck?" Okay, and he's like looking, and he's fucking watching it, and he's listening to this fucking accountant say the Solomon Grundy poem. Born on a Monday, christened on a Tuesday, died on a, and then Shane says, "This is the end of Solomon Grundy," and it's like, oh fuck,
I knew it.
Shane and Ben are brothers.
Yeah, there you go.
So then they finally have their confrontation, and they both walk into the room at the same time. And Ben just goes, "Hello, Braxton." And Shane's like, "Nah, man, don't do that, man. I've been looking for you for 10 fucking years. You're not even gonna say you're fucking happy to see me. God damn it, man, I've been looking everywhere for you." He's like, "I am happy to see you. I am." Now I need to finish what I'm here doing, so you should go. And he's like, "Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it, goddammit? Why'd you go to that funeral? Pops is dead because of you, motherfucker. You just had to go, huh? Fuck you." So then they start fighting.
Okay.
And it's really more of a one-sided thing. Shane is, he's throwing hits and shit at Ben, and Ben is just kind of taking it. He takes it for a while, lets him hit him and shit, and then quickly, clearly asserts his dominance over his brother. Just like, boom, boom, takes him out and fucking like plants him on the ground and then just points his fucking pistol right at his face. And then he says to him, "I'm sorry, Braxton. I am sorry for that. For going to that funeral. I did fuck everything up." He's like, "You should have called me, man. I was your brother. I'm your brother. I've always been looking out for you, man. It should have been me. I could have gone there with you. It would have been okay. you should have called me, man. And he's like, no, I didn't call you. Because I wanted you to be safe. I wanted you to be safe because my clients, most of my clients, they are very, very dangerous people. And I wanted you to be safe. And then fucking Shane's like, yeah, and he looks around at all of his team and everything. And he's like, I'd like to consider myself, pretty dangerous as well. And then Ben just goes, well, you have made some improvements. And at that point, John Lithgow walks in and he's like, what the fuck's going on? And he gives this big speech to Ben and he's like, you think what you're doing is helping people? You think it's a good thing? Well, all it does is help you. Fuck you. You're just a vigilante. You son of a bitch. What I was doing, it could have made millions of dollars that could have been spent on people that needed help, and that's why I was doing it. He's like, don't you understand? Don't you understand what that's like? And then Ben just goes, yes, I do, and then shoots him in the face. Like without fucking batting an eye.
And without finding out why he was even hired in the first place?
He was hired so that John Lithgow could, make sure to kind of...
to see if
so
the
he
finances
could expose the weaknesses in his plan.
Okay.
All right, and once he did that, then he could just cover it up real quick, and then have him killed by this new assassin that he just met named Shane.
Okay, all right.
So he kills John Lithgow, and then Shane is just like, I missed you, Ben. He doesn't care at all that John Lithgow's dead. I did like that
Yeah.
it didn't matter at all. Their personal shit, their jobs.
Yeah.
Their brotherhood still held true. He's like, I missed you, Ben. And then Ben doesn't say anything. So then Shane's like, yeah, I missed you too, Braxton. And then Ben's like, yeah, okay, I missed you too, man. And he's like, yeah, so I haven't seen you in fucking forever. You want to hang out sometime? Can we maybe see each other next week? He's like, yeah, sure. I'll call you. I'll let you know where. And he's like, yeah, all right, cool. Well, how am I going to find you? And then Ben is walking out, and he doesn't even turn around, and he just goes, you won't. I'll find you. And it's like, dun, 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 dun. So then we cut to a press conference of, the Department of Treasury talking about this, this plan that was exposed with living robotics and everything, and, millions of dollars were embezzled and everything. And, well, you know what? Why don't I just turn you over to the project director, Miss Mary Beth. Okay, so then she steps up to the mic and she's like, I cannot take credit for this. That would be wrong. It would be totally wrong of me to do that. And then J. Jonah Jameson is like, he's looking at her and he's like, oh man, you're going to fuck it all up. And then she takes a moment and then she goes, it was a team effort. It was my team that did it. We share the credit. So she's going to take over.
All right.
By the way, before, I actually did not quite see the thing coming that Shane was his brother. But who did was Heather. She turned over to me in the theater. She's like, that's his brother.
Yeah.
And I was like, the hell you say? Oh my God, that's amazing. So she gets a shout out for that one.
I was wondering if his brother was going to show up at some point.
Yeah. For a second, I was actually thinking that
save his life or
that
something.
the brother with the autism in the flashbacks was somebody else. And I was thinking for a second that Ben was going to turn out to be the other brother.
No.
And maybe his autistic brother, was in prison or turned into a killer or something like that. Who knows? But, Heather's the one who actually called it. So then we cut to that Neuroscience Institute from the beginning of the movie. But it's in present day. And there's a new couple there, and they're like, yeah, our son, he's acting like this, such and such, and we just don't know what to do. And, it's 20 years later, so the guy's like, it's autism. And, our school, and the school is now hustling and bustling. It's full of kids and instructors and everybody doing all this good, and, going through programs and everything. Mm-hmm. And while they're talking about it, you see that couple's son, and he's like looking at all these, he's got all these plastic animals lined up in a big line, and then he gets up and he just starts walking away from them, and he's exploring the school, and he ends up walking into this room, and he looks up at the wall, and there's this big old picture of Muhammad Ali framed on the wall.
Yeah.
And he's looking at it, and he's just like staring at it. And then you see this lady walk into frame, and she's dark haired, just like she's dark haired, and she's like kind of moving her arms around, and she's not speaking, but she's making noises with her mouth, But she's like a she's like a younger middle aged lady, but you can tell that she's the little girl from the beginning of the movie that gave Ben Affleck his missing puzzle piece.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like moving excitedly along, and looking at the kid. And then the doctor and the parents walk in, and they're like, "Oh, we found you." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's okay. She's, she's wonderful. She's a nice person. She's one of our only full-time residents. She's actually my daughter." And the parents are like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, she's the reason that I started this school, to help kids with autism." And she's like, "Yeah, so she doesn't actually speak, but she has she can talk with the use of a digital translator." And they're like, "Oh, really? What? How's that?" And he's like, "Well, here's her computer." And then the dad of the couple is like, "Oh yeah, you're I see that your technology is very is hyper funded. Look at this computer that she has. That's a such and such model 3000. It's water cooled and everything, and she could hack the Pentagon with that." And he's like, "Yeah, we do get anonymous donations and everything, and we use that money for good, and we try to help these people connect with the modern world." And then the lady who's like moving her arms around and just kind of like, "Make a noise," she sits down and she's looking at the kid, and then she like types some words onto her computer, and then it reads it off, and it goes, "Hello, Dreamboat.
Oh, shit.
Want to chat?" Yeah. So she was his fucking assistant.
Oh, that's cool.
And using her awesome computer and her badass intelligence that one would never suspect.
Yeah.
So she'd never like go down for it in an investigation or something like that. She was able to, change his identity whenever he needed it and shit like that.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So then we find Dana, and she goes back to the storage unit to try to look for Ben, and the trailer is gone. So she's like, "Oh shit." So she goes back home, and then there's some other delivery guys showing up at her apartment, and they deliver her a painting, and she opens it up, and it's fucking dogs playing poker. And she's like, "Oh," and she's smiling and everything, and she's looking at the painting, and then in the corner of the painting she sees this weird little fold on it, and it seems a little out of place. Maybe it's not stretched properly, and she just pulls on it and rips it open, and underneath the dog painting was the Pollock painting.
Okay.
And so then she's like, "Yeah," because she loved it. And then we just get a shot of Ben with his trailer hooked up to his truck, driving away off into the middle of nowhere. And then we see his face, and he just smiles. And then the credits roll, man. And that's it.
All right.
I love this movie, man. This shit was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Think it's like a franchise thing?
I would love it if it was, but no.
Okay.
Shit, man. They should, though. This was good. So there you have it. The Accountant on Movies with Ron. What do you think, Rick?
I'm happy. I'm glad for Ben. I remember some time ago thinking, there's all these awesome Jason Bourne movies, and then, Elysium and all that other shit.
Uh-huh.
I love Matt Damon doing action stuff, and Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, it's always kind of connected. I was wondering, I wonder if he'll ever get and do something.
Yeah, well, something action-oriented,
Yeah.
other than what, the other stuff he does. Yeah, I agree. And you know what, man? Ben brought the thunder.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
like.
It was good. You guys both need to go see this movie.
He had a lot of turds back in the day.
That's true. That is true. This movie made me a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I am excited to see his next one.
Hmm.
I think he's finally making some good choices. How about that?
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, if you can subscribe, do so, or add it to your list, your favorites. Leave us a rating or review. We would very much appreciate it. All right, it's been fun.
All right. Love you guys.
See you next week.
Movies with Ron.